Hello, welcome and welcome and welcome once more to the Blood and Mud podcast, the podcast that wish it was in Bordeaux this weekend, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And not just for the rugby,
or indeed any weekend, frankly.
29 shitting degrees.
Yeah. So hot, they needed parasols.
Yeah.
For their water breaks. So genuinely, what was the point of that aside from just being turbo French? Like they're literally standing outside in the blazing sun in 29-degree heat. I don't understand what 90 seconds under some inconsistent shade is really going to do there.
That's
when you're then going to have to go out and run around.
Sunstroke, not sunstroke divided line. That is
apparently so.
Without that 90 second, they'd have all had like banging headaches and been hospitalised by the day after.
It's just I mean, I'm all for it. I loved it as a sort of just weird, what the hell is going on?
Yes,
situation. That just shows the immense riches of the top 14 that they have enough support staff on the side of the pitch so they can run on enough people with umbrellas to cover up an entire 15-man team. It's very impressive.
And I'd love to if you could get those high vises made. We know those would have water written on them. The one has parasol written on them. You're like the designated parasol bloke. Peter O'Mahony, the week after captaining the Lions that season, that time, the week after when he was dropped, could have been the parasol man.
Yeah, un parasol, presumably in French.
Yeah, yes, yes. I'll take your word for it.
Let's just say it is.
But yeah, 29 degrees. Good Lord. Ali Eakin was lapping it up.
Shitting hot, I think.
As opposed to 29,000 miles per hour winds, which is what I'm having right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually quite nice here on Saturday as well. Like, in a sort of, it was maybe 18 degrees, and I felt like going outside with short sleeves was some sort of mad fucking insane thing. And then it was shit again by Sunday, so.
Yeah, it did. I've had to lock the bins in the garage. It's bin wind. It's a bin wind day.
It was our recycling was out this morning, which is always like whenever there's a named storm, it seems to be on a Sunday.
Is this a named storm again?
I don't think it is this time, but whenever there's mad ass wind, that always seems to be a Sunday night because that's when our fucking recycling and bins go out. And so, of course, I went out this morning before the recycling man had turned up, and most people's recycling boxes are in the middle of the road. A bunch of recycling that wasn't mine was in my front garden. It was just, it's an absolute classic of the genre. It really was.
27 compressed 2-litre Pepsi Max bottles blown all over your cul-de-sac.
Yes. No, I mean, see, I stack mine. So all mine was, there's enough sort of, unless the wind gets really gnarly, it's broadly okay. And I keep the plastic on the bottom. However, most people, they're not thinking about this.
Like clue, have they? No. The structural integrity of their recycling is all over the fucking chutney. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there was numerous recycling boxes in the middle of the road, right? And people were like driving down the street and like sort of swerving to go around them and not just thinking, you know what? I'll just hop out and put this on the side of the road and not make it a complete hazard to other road users. I saw about 4 or 5 people just sort of carefully navigate their way through this fucking screwball scramble, to use a very nice 80s reference of recycling boxes, instead of just one of them just going, you know what, I'm just going to move this one to the side of the road. If everyone had done that, there'd be no problem.
That was a blast right there.
I'll tell you what,
that was a constructible like board game type. It wasn't even a board game, was it? It was just a thing you did with a ball.
Yeah, that was a deep cut.
That sort of rotating tube thing was the difficult. The tube, you had to navigate it around.
Oh, yeah.
That one. Mousetrap made me laugh. I never once played a game of Mousetrap, the board game. I used to set it up and then let it go and then put it away again. I genuinely never played the board game Mousetrap.
Yeah, absolutely boring. Yeah. The bit where you had to get the screwball from the little, like, over the like rampy bit onto the little thing that you had to, I genuinely think that's impossible.
Oh, the seesaw thing.
Yeah. Why make that a kid's toy?
Yeah.
They're never going to do it. Anyway, it was very satisfying when you got to the end and you got to do the whole weird catapult thing that dinged the bell, though.
That is
People
true.
who are
and
under
it
the age
swung
of
around.
40 on this.
Well, this is in an app now, but you haven't got the tactile wonder of it, have you? The tactile wonder of it all.
It was fidget spinners before fidget spinners were fidget spinners, quite frankly.
Fair dues.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a game that takes you at least 20 minutes to set up so you can have 30 seconds of fun, what's the point?
Indeed.
You know?
See also Operation.
Yes, that butterfly thing was dead hard in operation. That's as much as I remember. Buckaroo, the one, pointless.
Oh, fucking hell, Buckaroo. What an awful lot of setup for an ultimately terrible game.
Yes.
At least Pop-Up Pirate was quite easy, you know?
Yes, and fun. Kaplunk was the worst one for long setup for no payoff. An hour of just putting straws through holes to then tips.
You ready yet? Nearly.
Then you tip the marbles in, you go, oh, they've all dropped out. Obviously, you need to move some of these straws around. And then the game itself is shit. Anyway, where were we?
Degree in engineering. Anyway, yes.
So, yeah, that was the weekend. Obviously, I had a gig at the weekend, didn't I? As I reminded people.
Indeed. How did that go?
It was all right. It was nice enough. It was a bit like we've got to the point now where basically our gigs are rehearsals, if you know what I mean. We don't rehearse as much as we should, so you're still feeling your way through it. But it was in the owners only bar on a caravan site in Rill. I told you it was on a caravan site.
Yes.
But it was the owners only bar, so it wasn't very big. And we'd been allowed to bring some people with us because it's not a public bar.
Oh.
So we brought some people with us, and obviously they kept turning up. And Elved, the guy behind the bar, was a very nice fella. Said, I'm not being funny. How many people are you bringing with you? Because people kept turning up. And we said, well, whatever. He said, because if any more come, I might have to stop people coming in because this is an owner's bar and there'll be no seats for the owners. I said, I'd actually brought nobody. And I said, Elved, it's nothing to do with me. I brought no one, Elved. It's these other people in the band can't be trusted. He said, because I've stopped them in. Anyway, when we actually played the gig, had we not brought the people we brought, we would have played to 3 people. 3 people, one of which was a woman who was from Lancashire somewhere, who spent the entire gig asking us, do you do or know any Pink Floyd? Now, once that's been asked once and you go, no, we don't know Pink Floyd, we don't tend to do that, to be honest. You just then kept asking, do you not know any Pink Floyd? No, we've been through this.
They're not a DJ. You can't just like they can't just bring it up on their phone. I mean, I could bring it up on Ultimate Guitar, the chords, I guess, but I also don't want to it out. Because Pink Floyd, in my opinion, are a bit shit and not good for a fucking small caravan park bar with 3 people in it. I would enthusiastically agree with at least 50% of that. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's just a weird sketch, isn't it? But I suppose owners bar, they're used to getting what they want in that
exactly.
Place.
They've had to pay 37 grand for a caravan, and then they're paying and the rest, and they're paying $5 grand a year to live in a police stage. They don't get to ask what the music is. Then what is the point? But it was all good fun. I actually put a video in the Facebook group of my band playing a Jason Isbell song. If you want to have a look at that,
with your Jason Isbell telly.
With Jason Isbell telly. Not that I've not that I've got an issue. It's just a very good guitar. It's just a very good guitar.
Great guitar for the money. Really good guitar for the money.
Other than that, then I went to Lancashire the weekend because my nieces had a baby, a little baby.
Oh, lovely.
Little baby. It was nice to see them. Went to a pub where I had a Lancashire cheese and beer onion pie.
Hello.
Homemade, like in a Petivier type shape, if you know that kind of shape. And it was absolutely belting. It came with chips and their own homemade brown sauce.
I mean, fair play.
And you cut it. It was freshly cut. You cook into it. This bloody cheese oozed out of it with onion. Oh, it was so bloody good.
You've had a lot of pie-centric content the last couple of weeks.
Have I? Oh, yeah, because my cousin come with pies, didn't he? Yeah. I've been to Lancashire, you say. I've had somebody come from Lancashire. I've been to Lancashire. Therefore, it's been pies off the charts past couple of weeks.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's that. Anyway, hello, everybody. I'm Lee. Nice to see you all. And over there is...
I'm Josh. How's it going?
If you want to get in touch with us and tell us about whether you've eaten any pies or played gig you didn't like, then actually I like the gig. It was just a strange scenario altogether. I got to drive down Rill Prom. And nothing is quite. There's only one amusement arcade open.
Oh.
The rest of them are all still boarded up.
There's a beauty in a seaside town out of season. I think
so.
I love it.
Yeah, so grim and yet so evocative in some ways.
Quite.
So anyway, you want to get in touch with us? I'm at Blood and Mud on Twitter, leeatbloodandmud.com on the email either. What about you, Josh?
At Josh Gardner on the tweets and such. You know the deal.
Yeah, we're on Sports Social Network. We're on wherever the hell you get your podcasts from. Probably mostly Apple, but other places as well.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, I guess, we are on patreon.com jumping jack / it's a // chicka-jing.
Anyway,
Blood and Mud, where you can come along and get all the other stuff. You could see my band playing if you're that fucking interested. I mean, you know, even £2 a lot for that. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You know, we did get paid for Saturday night, to be fair. Elfed Man moaned about how many people we brought with us, but it was a bit like, well, they're probably paying for us, aren't they? Because you've had 3 people drinking in here otherwise.
Yeah, I was going to say, this has kept the fucking lights on, surely.
Exactly, yeah.
Actually, no, as you say, the 38 grand a fucking year keeps the lights on.
Exactly, yeah. And the fact you have to buy all your gas bottles from the camp and you have to use the camp's exclusive handyman at whatever rates he wants to charge.
Genuinely, like my dad has a chalet down west, and like some of the shit that like he pays like 18 grand a year for it or something stupid like that, fees, and they have the fucking temerity now to say that you can't have your own internet anymore. You've got to pay them to have the internet, and it's like 120 quid a year or something. So it's a pathetically small amount,
but even so,
for what should just be included, and yet,
honestly, I can't express to you how much of a shit deal it is, and the number of people who go headlong into it is unbelievable.
I don't understand it. I mean, he's retired. They spend a lot of fucking time down there, but Jesus Christ.
He has and you have no rights in any way, none whatsoever. No. If he said, I don't like this, you go, well, fuck off the camp then. Yeah. And they can force that as well, and you have no recourse on that either.
Yeah. You've paid 18 grand to not own something. You've paid like 30 grand to not own a thing.
Blows my mind.
Genuinely one of the stupidest, the most exploitative sort of fucking things of the working class is the holiday park and its various fucking ridiculous extensions. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so patreon.com Blood and Mud to come along and get extra stuff. It's £2 a month for 20 quid for the whole entire year, or 50 quid for the whole year, or £5 a month for the VIP lounge. You get a nice little mention on here. But this is, Josh, as we've well established so far, the year of respect, where we shout out to people who've been with us a long time. We're now up to about February 2021 for people who've been with us. So
lovely stuff.
Just out of lockdown year, I guess, but still suffering the after effects of it all. Like we are now, let's be honest, aren't we? But I'd like to shout out to these people who've been patrons for all this time. John Burton, Rue Campbell, Matthew Diggins, Peter Michael Gray, Alan Houston, Mike Bird, Ross Williams, Martin Slater, Matt Jones, Martin Donovan, VIP, Katie Watson, Simon Payton, Joel Williams, Steve Langdon, VIP, Raymond Clark, Morgan Jones, Oliver Norman, James Bernard Crone, Daniel Wild, Theodore Roberts, Seb, Craig Hogg, Dan Alsobrook, he's a VIP, Noel Hewson, a VIP, Tom Roberts, VIP, Pat Maguire, not VIP, Lewis Young, not VIP, Vibke Marshall is a VIP, thank you very much to you, John and Brian Strain.
That's a good name, isn't it?
That's a good Brian Strain, isn't it? Good man yourself.
It's a good, solid rugby union name, that is.
Nobody knew this week. But that's okay. That's okay. Fine. Thank you to all of you who stick around.
With the tribe that we have,
yeah. We don't, we won't turn people down, obviously, but
absolutely not.
Shall we begin, Josh, as we always begin, with a player spotted?
Oh yeah, I think we probably should. Yeah,
Yeah,
people
rattling
get
through it
threatened
this
by
week.
now, aren't they?
Rattling through it.
Indeed.
Anthony Cook is a patron, and he patron messages in via the patron messaging service because he's a patron.
Mm.
He says, "Hello, Lee and Josh. Players spotted.
Yes.
I was in the Cedar Tree Farm, I think it is, in Grangetown, Cardiff on Sunday with my wife and my 2 adult daughters." And let me just pause there for a second. Anthony, I've got a great deal of respect for you here for referring to where that is as Grangetown.
Mm.
Because it is Grangetown, but many people would have said the Bay.
Oh,
You know
I
what I
know
mean?
the one. I actually do know that pub. I went there with my dad because he was very impressed by the dessert tray cart that they have.
Were you impressed in the same way?
No, I wasn't. I remember it because it was the start, like the first very hot day last summer, and like I was in shorts and t-shirts. And to be fair, it is very impressive. Like there's a lot of big fucking cakes in that dessert tray, but like they do not have air conditioning in that place, and so it was about 27 degrees inside, and my dad ordered a full beef dinner, and genuinely, I still don't know how he did it.
My granddad used to go for his afternoon nap. I must have told you this. In full cardigan, Farrah slacks, socks.
Perfect.
He'd get under the duvet, and his bed was next to the radiator. He'd have his hour.
Yeah.
He'd get up like 5 seconds before his tea was ready. And he'd like get up massively red-faced and bleary-eyed from like sleeping in a cardi, and just immediately sit down and eat like mash gravy and lamb chops.
I mean,
it's literally, I'd have just been honking all over the table. Basically,
yeah,
that was me.
Same. Yeah. Well, I will take my hat off to Cedar Tree Farm. Is that they have got quite a good little indoor kids wacky warehouse style play area, which you don't have to pay for, which is almost worth the stifling, sort of cloying, near-death heat that you experience when you go there. But anyway.
Another thing about my granddad, which I've never quite fathomed, is that he'd come in from the pub. I got the pub with him, and we come in for the pub, and he'd have had like 6 pints or whatever. And he'd come in, and he'd have, in Lancashire, they always say a butty, and you put butty first, a bit like Welsh in some ways. He'd say, "Reet, I'm having a butty beef before I go to bed." All right, granddad, yeah. And he'd go and have a beef butty with just like a vague amount of butter on it, no drink. Not a glass of water, a cup of tea. Just chin this white bread beef butty, and then go immediately to bed after 6 pints, after like 6 pints of lager.
Genuinely, I don't have any like scientific backing for this, but I genuinely think that a lot of the sort of health problems that generation have experienced in their lives is less to do with like changing diets and processed foods, just due to the fact that these cunts didn't drink.
They didn't do what?
They did not drink. Not like they drink cups of tea occasionally, but they would not drink anything near enough to hydrate themselves. And like, I have to have a conversation with my mother about this because all she does all day is drink black coffee, and she would talk about like worrying about dementia and things like this, which is the history of it in a family. And I was just like, do you know that like having a dehydrated brain all the time is one of the things that they say is really bad for your dementia? And she was like, well, I drink coffee. She's like, yeah, you drink about 4 cups of coffee every day, which is a grand total of about 750 milliliters of fluid. I don't understand why, like, you've never been hydrated in your life. And eventually, it's like she just drinks more coffee now, but she drinks decaf, so it's fair enough, but like whatever. But it's just like these people just, remember when you like the comedian Ellis James has a routine about how you never used to, like when we were in school, we were just basically dehydrated all the time because if you could have a drink at break time and lunchtime, and if you wanted to drink at any other time, the teacher basically told you to stop being a fucking time waster and stop messing around in class. Whereas now kids go to school with their little fucking like drinks bottles that they have at their desks, and they drink 20. Like their skin's going to be incredible. This generation, they're going to have the most hydrated skin that any generation has ever had.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, granddad had a double heart bypass in his early 60s and diagnosed type 2 diabetic at the age of 56. So there's something in it. I think there's something in it.
I mean, I'll be interested to see if. Yeah, I mean, we probably got various other things because of other horrendous things that we did when we were like numbers and all that shit. But like, they don't drink. That generation does not drink unless it's beer or tea or coffee. It's bizarre.
I mean, my granddad got diagnosed type 2 diabetic, and the only thing he changed about his diet, the only thing is that he switched from bitter to lager because, quote unquote, bitter's got a lot of sugar in it. Everything else is the same. Fry ups the lot. His fucking sugars were the most unmanaged thing you've ever seen in your fucking life. And there were constantly just splatters of blood all over his worktop where he just kept whamming himself with his fucking injection just stood over the kitchen worktop. And he and all that, and he only drank UHT milk. And all that was in his fridge is UHT milk and about 4 cans of Lucasade at all times because he was hypo so often. Oh, God bless his mad old sod. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway,
in the Cedar Tree, which is in Grangetown, although most people
it absolutely is in Grangetown. Like,
and I should know. I used to live there, so it's off Ferry Road. That's fucking Grangetown. But anyway, so he's there with his 2 adult daughters. He said we had to sit outside freezing to death because we had the dogs with us, and they're not allowed in. Should have done your research. Who should walk past? Says Anthony, and into the restaurant. But Alicia Butchers, Kira Bevan, and Jazz Joyce in full training gear, the black dark grey kit, jacket top, shorts, and socks.
God, no wonder they lost.
Well, this was afterwards. This was Sunday. He said, I didn't want to invade their downtime and certainly didn't want to say the wrong thing after the 3rd defeat. So I gave a polite smile and nod, which was reciprocated. The poor sods were covered in bruises and looked a little down. But hopefully the excellent carvery cheered them up on a cold Sunday afternoon.
Look,
hey.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the restorative power of a roast.
My dad really enjoyed his roast. Like,
we've had this discussion before that you will, the worst taco you have had is better than the best roast.
Oh yeah, there is literally no. In fact, in that Cedar Tree Farm one, I think I just had a burger which is top 5 worst burgers I've eaten in the last 10 years. Just pure below fucking burger van level shit. It was really, really bad. But I still picked it over the very good carvery because it's just not good for us. I just don't like it.
When I went to watch Lee, I parked my car in the Harvester car park just down from Lee Sports Village.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for something to eat in the Harvester, which I don't do very often. But I thought, and they do like their specialty, the Harvester specialty is chicken. They do a half chicken.
Yes. Oh, I know an original combo. Don't like.
Oh, sorry, mate, with chips. And you have that with peri-peri sauce. And it was genuinely very good. For like, and cheaper than fucking Nando's. They're piss take that Nando's.
We've talked about the Alan Wynne, Adam Jones Harvester situation, right?
I don't believe so. I'm sure listeners will say yes, we have, and I don't remember because I don't remember a thing these days.
It might have been one of the weeks that we missed, but it was the day before Wales lost to Italy, or the weekend before Wales lost to Italy in the Six Nations. And the Harvester posted that the Harvester in Llandarcy, just off the M4 by the Neath Junction in Swansea, which is literally the closest structure that isn't the David Lloyd place to the Ospreys training base. They posted the Llandarcy Harvester posted this photo.
Yes. No, we didn't do that here, but you did show me that. Yeah.
Delighted to serve Welsh rugby legends Adam Jones and Alan Wynne Jones this afternoon. A Friday afternoon in a Six Nations Fallow week. Adam Jones and Alan Wynne Jones, for some reason, met up in the Llandarcy, a stone's throw from where they both used to work, and just presumably had absolutely rinsed the original combo in the salad bar, which I've got so much time for that.
Adam Jones, I've realised, looks a lot like Nathaniel Ratecliffe of Nathaniel Ratecliffe and the Night Sweats.
Yeah.
And even has the same slight Americana clothes. Because
It does, yeah.
Top half, black t-shirt and, cardi is a bit Americana, isn't it? But
it is a bit. It's the sort of thing that like Jason Isbell would have worn 5 years ago, but now he's too trendy for that sort of thing.
Now he's in Dior or something. But
yeah.
But below that, obviously, below that photograph,
yeah,
he's got flip flops and cargos on, hasn't he? But,
there's we can't see it, but there's absolutely no way on earth that Adam Jones is not wearing flip flops and shorts.
Yeah,
and they won't be cargo shorts either. They will be like some shorts. They'll be like Lions shorts or Wales shorts. They were like 11 or 12
from 2012 or something.
Not even Harlequin stash.
I mean, Alan, when that hat, that baseball hat is pulled down far too close to the eyes, isn't it?
It's weird. I mean, it's hiding a multitude of I mean, maybe he's finally had the hair transplant that he's.
That could be it, couldn't it?
And
that could be
it. He's keeping a lid on it, quite literally. But yeah, a glorious. It doesn't matter how rich you are, doesn't matter how successful you are. Adam Wynne Jones, one of the most. He's just had that megabucks fucking too long short-term deal that probably fucking set him up for life. Adam Jones, he's got his contract for life at Harlequins, and yet they understand the simplicity of an original combo. And there's
genuinely very good though. I wasn't expecting to enjoy. I was there. Anyway, I'm not arsed really, but it was. I'm not going to enjoy it. It is what it is, But it was actually that was genuinely better than I thought it could ever be.
I think about 10 years ago, Harvester kind of went for the Weatherspoons pound and became real shit. And I think the wheels fell off the business a little bit. And I think I went there about 3 or 4 years ago. For some reason, I can't even remember why. And I was pleasantly surprised. Like that stuff that the sort of the spit roast stuff that they do, the ribs and the chicken and all that sort of stuff. It's very good.
And also, crucially, refillable pop.
Oh, refillable pop is an absolute fucking big tick in anybody's box.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Another thing that America gets a lot of things wrong. A lot of things wrong. However,
and I know how much a fountain drink costs. Just make all refill. Don't charge me £4 for a fucking fountain Coke and then also charge me for a refill. You absolute child.
Automatic cars and refillable pop everywhere is where America leads the world. Big time. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. 100% couldn't agree more.
Anyway, so that was the Cedar Tree, which has a very good carvery. If you want to go in, you might have a chance to see some Welsh women's rugby players down there. When maybe, well, hopefully they'll smile one day again. We'll talk about that a bit later on, I guess. But thank you very much, Anthony. He says at the end, it goes without saying that I love the pod. Well, thank you very much. It doesn't go without saying. Thank you for saying it. That's very, very nice indeed, Anthony. I mean, I don't like to read out praise because you end up saying like Steve Wright, don't you? But it was even so. He wrote it down, so I'll read it out. So there you go. So if you want to send us in a player spotted, you can do that by getting in touch with me at Blood and Mud, because my DMs are open, lee at bloodandmud.com. Or, of course, like Anthony, you could join, become a patron, then send it to the Patron messaging service. That's probably the most inefficient way to do it, but it's the way that we'd most like you to do it, if that's at all possible, please.
Indeed.
So, shall we do the news, Josh?
Yes.
I'm distracted there because I've got a little pad next to me that I write my notes on. And last week, my dad had to come and do an online driving speed course thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he came here because he couldn't get it to work on his own laptop. So he came here and did it. And the only notes he's written on this pad while he was sat here for a 2-hour speeding course, and I begin to think that his mind may have drifted because the only thing he's written down on the only thing he's written on this pad is silicon finish. So obviously his mind had clearly drifted to something else. He left that behind. So whether he's actually done something, I'll have to text him, Dad, did you buy the silicon finish? I'm worried. So sorry.
I'm really trying to take handwritten notes again because I've realised that my handwriting is genuinely.
Do you not do it in meetings and stuff? Or you all typing on the laptop thing?
I'm typing everything, and I still
have me pad because I like to leaf through it and cross things out. I bought myself
a little pretentious fucking notebook here, and I'm trying to But genuinely, look at this fucking shit that I've written here. That is what my handwriting looks like. I genuinely I'm technically giving away confidential information there because that's from a private fucking meeting about an upcoming project. But genuinely, if you could divulge anything that I've written there, you're a fucking Enigma code machine yourself.
When I was sorting through the garage, I found a bag with all my old uni stuff in, and because we were still handwriting essays when I was at uni, and I thought my writing was bad then, because it's never been great. And I looked at it, and it looked like the most beautiful calligraphy I've ever seen compared to what I do now.
It's like I looked at like a sort of like A-levels sort of notebook thing that I found, and like my handwriting was so beautiful, and so like it's always been very small, but it was incredibly like neat and ordered and tidy, and then it's just descended to the point where like I did short. Did you ever do shorthand for a while? Because like
I never bothered with trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things what they encourage you to do as a journalist, but like I could never be asked. Like it was one of the because I was doing the magazine course in Cardiff. They were like, if you do the newspaper course, it's mandatory that you have to have your 90 words a minute shorthand qualification. If you do magazine or broadcast, it's recommended, but it's not compulsory. Yeah. And that to me in university was a big old okay. I won't do that, but. Because Rach was also there, I would basically go along because she was going there anyway, so I might as well just tag along at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning. But like after about 4 months, Marlene, who was a legend in journalism as a shorthand teacher, she just stopped. Like she would ask people to like read out their shorthand, and after about a month and a half, she sort of twigged what was going on and just stopped asking me. and then after about 4 months, I was just like, I can't even be bothered to pretend to be a good boyfriend at this point and join you on the shorthand things. I'm getting nothing out of this. I still know what as soon as possible is in shorthand, but that is literally all I remember. So,
is it ASAP?
It's sort of like a weird little like because all the shorthand symbols. It's like it's their weird little.
It's not difficult to write ASAP though, is it?
No, but it's like it's that basically. It's sort of ASPS.
Right.
That's all I remember. But yeah, it is.
Grant Schwartz says, did Josh write that with his wrong hand?
No, that's just what.
There's no right hand anymore. I think that's what we've learned, isn't it?
Yeah. I even bought a fancy pen because I was just like, I'm going to fucking get into this. I'm going to get into writing stuff.
I love that. So that's like when I get convincing myself to get back on my bike. I'm like, I'll buy some really good shoes. That'll get me back on the bike.
It's £5 this pen cost me. Don't know why.
God.
It's nice. It feels nice to write with, but it's got a look at this tiny little nib. I think that's part of the problem. Tiny nib plus my handwriting equals doctor's level handwriting.
Harley Worthy says the worst part of my new job is everything's handwritten records and faxed between sites. Says Harley Worthy here. I'm convinced.
I didn't know you were tuning in from 1997.
Yeah. Where is your job? The late 80s. Good God.
North Korea.
Anyway, news we were going to do, weren't we? We're just about to do the news. So,
yes.
Do you remember that time, Josh, when you thought it was impossible to hate Coldplay more?
I know where you're going here.
And then that Chris fella married Paltrow, and she made a scented candle out of a vagina or something and charged people 10 grand for it.
Yeah.
Something like that, wasn't it? That's roughly what happened. And then you hated the band and her even more. Then they got divorced and said it wasn't their fault they got divorced. It's because humans live too long now. And because it wasn't their fault that they got divorced. So some shit like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Leinster have done by signing Jordi Barrett, basically, is what I'm coming to. That's the news.
I mean, it's what better example of, picking a player who will fit the culture straight out of the gate than Jordi Barrett and Leinster. They are absolutely made to be together in all the ways that they are dislikable. It's not as bad as it seemed initially, because when the rumours were rumbling earlier this afternoon that they'd signed Jordi Barrett, it was just like on the heels of re-signing Dan Sheehan this morning to a central contract, which means that Leinster currently have 11 players on central contracts to a value of an estimated £6.1 million
Beautiful.
a season. And the other 3 fucking Irish provinces have 3 between them. I mean, it felt like rubbing it in a little bit, the structural imbalance what currently exists in Irish rugby. And to be fair, is very, very successful if you are Team Ireland and Leinster. But if you're a fan of not Leinster in Ireland, you're inclined to think, hang on, why does the IRFU give them £6 million worth of players for free, and then they can still go and fuck? So they're going to spunk money up the wall on Jordi Barrett, who plays in the position of 4 current first choice Ireland internationals in that Leinster team. It's like, so you're going to play fullback? Shouldn't have thought so. Hugo Keenan. He's going to play 12 or 13. There's 2 players there who are starting for Ireland most of the time. He's going to play on the wing. Well, I mean, there's a couple of Ireland internationals there as well. Outside off, maybe. Maybe they thought they signed the wrong Barrett, and they
maybe did they need a like for like of some of the Kiwi background and inexplicable hair? Is that what it is?
Maybe. I mean, it's the reality is that he is effectively the replacement for what's his face, Charlie Ngatai, isn't it? But you know, he's not like, I don't get it. Like, but he's only there for 6 months. Is the sort of. However, he's not there for free. No. And
I wonder how many pathways it's cost to buy him.
Well, quite. It's like from the ground up, but also occasionally we will break the bank to bring in a 50 cap All Black.
From the ground up,
who might not even start.
We'll drop a load of gold bullion out of a helicopter as well. We'll do that some weeks, but mostly it's from the ground up.
Yeah, from the helicopter down, from the ground up. Yeah, as Harley Worthy points out, it's quite bad after the IRFU said that Munster couldn't keep both Sean Klein and RG Snyman before then letting Leinster sign RG Snyman for €500,000 a year, and now signing Jordi Barrett for 6 months for what must be an unbelievably large amount of bunts.
Yeah. Will he get an Ali Williams style bag carrier to come with him as well? Like
you wonder. I mean, it's clearly they're flush with cash right now, so why not? But
yeah, I mean, look, we'll talk about the game they played at the weekend, I guess, later on.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're a fan of theirs, it must be fantastic. But, I mean, it really is real pantomime bad guy shit, isn't it?
Big time. And also, like, you cannot help, like, these sabbaticals, right? When has it ever gone well for anything but the bank account of the All Black in question? Like... Remember when Dan Carter went to Perpignan and didn't win anything? Like various other, like it's interesting actually because mainly the All Blacks have done Japan-based, like sabbaticals over the last 5 or 6 years.
And they're fairly low key, aren't they? Because they basically just go there, earn a fucking fortune. But it don't matter if you win much or what. It doesn't matter. Everyone knows what it's about really.
Yeah, like I think it probably says a fair bit about Jordi Barrett, the player, that he's gone, no, fuck, basically playing, NPC level fucking rugby in Japan with a bunch of lads.
I want to go and play in the best league in the world. I don't know what that feels like.
He wants to play in Europe. He wants to experience, playing in the Champions Cup, and he's picked the team best suited to win it. Let's face it, because he must have got similar offers from France, but he's gone. Leinster have woven some incredible bullshit to try and make this not seem like it's all about the money in their announcement statement, pointing out that he basically, his dad came over and played in Ireland for a little bit when they were basically kids, and so there's family connections to County Meath and Dublin, and to go the opportunity to go back and meet some family and friends and connections that were made 20 years ago is pretty cool. It's like, dude, as Robbie pointed out, just say I like money. Stop pretending that this is somehow some sort of homecoming for the guy, for fuck's sake. I mean, Yeah, who the fuck it would turn down Jordi Barrett? The world's best, as objectionable a face as he's got, he is the world's best utility back. Like, he is genuinely world class in like 3 positions,
and can kick,
and can fucking kick goals from space. Like, he's a fucking world class winger.
He can kick goals from the ground up.
Yeah,
literally.
So yeah, he's a world class fullback, a world class winger, and apparently now a world class 12, judging by the World Cup. And like, yeah, why the fuck wouldn't you want that guy in your team? Of course you would.
Oh, I mean, it's a great deal for everybody involved who is either Leinster or Jordi Barrett, and Leinster fans, I guess. Yeah,
we think it's a great deal for Leinster. We will see.
True.
Because he's literally not joining until after the November tests next year. Presumably, he's going to want to take some time off after that. So he is basically coming in to play the run-in of the Champions Cup and the Urk, and then he'll fuck off. And if he plays like 5-10 games for Leinster in that time and they win everything, fucking money well spent. If he pulls the fucking Jonah Luma and gets injured 3 games in, and it's an awful lot of money to spend on a guy for 6 months, I would imagine.
These things are relatively the mid-80s in rugby league was like this. They used to get like superstars coming over just to play for about 2 months. When Wigan won the Challenge,
more of this shit.
When Wigan won the Challenge Cup in '85, that legendary Wigan versus Hull '85 Challenge Cup final, Wigan had Brett Kenny playing for him at 6. He was like a legendary Parramatta Eels standoff. And Hull had Peter Sterling, who's a big RL commentator now at scrum half. And they were just fucking brilliant players. And Brett Kenny was great because he had a blonde mullet, of course. And he walked out onto the Wembley pitch with both his hands in his pockets. And everyone thought it was an absolute disgrace that this like disrespectful Australian did it. Both in the pockets of his tracky top. He didn't give a fuck. But yeah, there's a history of this in rugby because of the way the seasons are and all that kind of stuff.
I wish more of this stuff happened. Like it's not, in the days, the Twiggamala to Llanelli thing being the sort of the maddest of the lot, but like that stuff. Sorry, not Twiggamala. When he came over to Wasps, and it was just like fuck me, and it's more of that stuff should happen in rugby. It's just like, hey, you've seen all you. It's too often players get too comfortable in their own hemisphere, I think. And like fucking Reece Patch will fuck it off to play Super Rugby. Why the fuck not? Crack on, mate. Like,
it's one of the things people may know I don't like James Askell, but I've got a lot of time for the fact that he did just go. I'm going to go. He played everywhere, didn't he? He had to go everywhere.
He's like, I'm going to go to France. I'm going to go to New Zealand. I am going
as much as I can out of this. Yeah.
Yeah. Gareth Delve. Remember him?
Indeed,
I'm going to play in Gloucester. I'm going to play in Breve. I'm going to play in Melbourne. I'm going to play in Swansea. All the cultures, all the various cultures. However, it is some fucking bullshit, isn't it?
It is.
Like,
I quite fancied it. They're giving me a load of fucking money. Hopefully we all have a nice time out of it. See you next year. See you in December. Yeah.
And it is like if you are a fan of another province in Ireland, particularly, I would say an Ulster fan right now, and you are basically having to offload all of your best players to not go bankrupt this year because every single one of the players that you have that is anywhere near an Ireland team is not on a central contract, and Leinster have 11 of them. Like it's, and then they're using the money that they save by not having to play for 11 of their first 15 on fucking All Blacks World Cup, double World Cup winning Springboks, and potentially Taniela Tupou as well. Like,
and it's
the IRFU are sanctioning that and going, whereas they are happy. Peter Romani's just signed a new isn't retiring. That's other news.
Yeah,
because he signed a 1-year extension, but he signed a 1-year extension with Munster. He's not on a deal. Like even the current captain of Ireland is not deemed worthy of a central contract, but 11 of Leinster's players are. I get it, because you look at that Ireland team and you go, yeah, well, that 11 are like basically the heart and soul of the Ireland team. But there is a question to be asked of, there's a chicken and an egg thing here. Are they the heart and soul of the Ireland team because they came through Leinster and there is a structural thing there? Or like, would Munster players, if they'd have been benefited, if the central contracts were spread a little bit more evenly across the provinces, would there be better players? I don't know. It feels like some bullshit, to be honest. It feels like a reinforcement of some real, and if the IFU wants to say, well, we can only really afford to make one team really, really fucking
That's
good.
what they would say, wasn't it? It's better to concentrate all there, and then everyone gets used to a feeling of success and all that,
And I think that they should be, but be upfront about that. Like, you used to be upfront about the fact you didn't give a fuck about Connacht. And
hence Robbie Henshaw plays for
Robbie Henshaw, yeah, exactly. But now you pretend like you care about all 4 provinces equally, but it's very obvious that all of the eggs are being thrown in the Leinster basket. Just be upfront about that. Let everybody else understand the lay of the land, and there will be a lot less grumbling. But while the pretense is that there is some sort of level playing field between the Irish provinces from the IRFU, I think other fans of other provinces will rightly be quite fucked off.
However, on the flip side, it will be genuinely quite exciting to see Jordi Barrett playing in Europe.
Oh, big time.
I mean, we all can't stand him, but he's by all we all. I mean, me and
coming
you.
off the bench, coming off the bench for Leinster,
And a piss of it, isn't it, as well? That means that Leinster could, if they need to rest these Ireland players who are like back-to-back games and all that, they'll just have him the whole time, all the way through the Six Nations window. When they want to rest people they do that already now, don't they? Plus all the advantages there, multiple bank accounts full of pathways bring them.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like, it's the rich get fucking richer, man. Like, we're not going to talk about it because who cares about the Challenge Cup? But like, the Ospreys squad ran out of steam this week, demonstrably, after expending a lot of effort last week. And when I was thinking about it in the week, I was on the Ospreys Irie podcast this week, and I was talking about it with Robbie and James and the guys on there, and Gloucester basically, they had 2 months off, so they had so long off that they had to have a second preseason to get ready for the restart because they hadn't played a game in so long. Whereas, like, Irk teams, basically they've had a couple of weeks off here and there, but they've basically been playing every week since October, and particularly with
traveling literally around the globe.
Yeah, indeed. And you look at that Ospreys team and you just think, yeah, like, especially with the injuries, like fucking Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake back in training this week. Why could that not have happened a couple of weeks earlier? Jesus Christ. But like, the quality of players that were already missing from a small squad who have basically been playing most weeks since October, like, yeah, they're going to run out of steam. And then you add a team, obviously the Irish teams have got much better depth to start off with. And it's like, yeah, it was like when the Ospreys beat Ulster a couple of months ago. It's like, yeah, you can bring fucking World Cup winning Springboks off the bench to shore up your scrum. And now Leinster's going to be like, oh yeah, we can bring, Taniela Tupou and RG Snyman and Jordi Barrett in for when the boys are away with Ireland during the Six Nations. It's like, what is the fucking point, man? Like, well, it feels unfair and it feels like cheating, because it is financially cheating. But such is modern competitive sport, I guess. And as you say, there will be something quite fun about watching a Leinster team in a Champions Cup quarter-final or semi-final with that full fucking panoply of what they've got laid out if they're all fit.
It's Galactico shit, isn't it, basically?
Oh, it's fantasy rugby. You're looking at a team that's probably going to have James Ryan on the bench because they're going to be starting, Joe McCarthy and RG Snyman. And it's going to have Taniela Tupou probably on the coming off the bench. for Tyke Furlong. It's crazy shit. It's the sort of stuff that I can't even manage to do in fucking Rugby 23 on my fucking Xbox. So fair play to them.
No, that was a very long way of telling you that that they signed Jordi Barrett, which is surprising. Well, it was.
It's certainly surprising. It's very surprising. Yes. There's been no like the Tania Tupu and RG Snyman things haven't been announced yet, but they have been, trailed in the media for months. Whereas this Jordi Barrett thing came out of fucking nowhere, and it's quite exciting when that happens, even if you fundamentally hate it.
At the opposite end of player excitement, and I don't mean to do this down too much, but Josh Turnbull has announced that he's retiring.
Is he really? Oh, I missed that.
Have you? Yes, he has. At 36 years old, he's done. Now, we've never been overly kind to Josh Turnbull on this pod, have we? And I think in some ways, it's almost that didn't give a lot of recognition to what he was or wasn't doing, because sometimes people just become a bit of a meme or a running joke, don't they? Which is what he became, certainly from an international point of view. And I kind of stand by that. He was not an international class player.
No, he wasn't.
He was kind of in the nicest possible way. He's one of the most Yorso club players you can possibly see. 13 caps over 11 years tells its own story, doesn't it? I love that. I love that those international.
And the perfect thing about a Yorso club player like him is that he had the classic example of what I think a Yorso club player has, which is a weird late career like flurry of a couple more caps where people just go, this guy's better than ever, he should be in the Wales squad, and then he is
ignored for too long and his experience now
and then they, because he's been, and to be fair to him, he did get back. Like he played from what was he was at the Scarlets from 2007 to 2014 and played 100 and something times, and I think he played 200 appearances for Cardiff in the 10 years.
350 appearances all in. I think.
Which is mad. And but he was much more important to Cardiff than he ever was to Llanelli, the Scarlets. He became, and when he signed from them, it was just kind of like, oh well, Cardiff Scarlets have lost a squad player who's going to probably be a squad player at Cardiff, but he definitely improved himself and he got better in that Cardiff team. And the fact that he was still playing at 36 partly shows how bad Cardiff are at signing type 5 forwards, that he's just kind of stayed around because they desperately needed somebody who had a bit of bosh about them, but also just he made himself indispensable in that team, and fair play to him.
I should point out, obviously, that 13 Wales caps is 13 more than either of us useless cunts.
Oh, big time!
Mind, so we always have to caveat
anyone we ever fucking talk shit about on
exactly.
Podcast, dramatically more talented.
We just want to be very clear that we do recognise that. But yeah, like it's just for me, you mentioned the Scarlets there. My, in a way, most vivid memories of him were in that Turnbull McCusker flank partnership in the early days at Scarlets, because there was that flash of when they both came through and McCusker was the same, really. Like, oh god, they look a bit gnarly and stuff, and there could be something here. Then ultimately there wasn't. It feels like a bit of a Thomas Young vibe. Do you know what I mean? It looks like there should be something there early on, and then it
should be a lot better than it was. Yeah.
Well, not nearly that in any way. Just sometimes people you think, oh well, that's where they're at now. It will get better, or you just see them playing their absolute best game, and actually that happens once every 30 games. And their normal performance is this, and it's not that terrible. It just means they'll just have a very decent professional career, and good for them, But it's
indeed. I think there is a very interest. Robicus has been retired for quite a few years now. It says a lot about his. Robicus been. I think Robicus is actually younger, maybe, or he's the same.
I think he went quite early, McCusker. I don't know what the story was. I don't know if he got injured or he didn't get a contract, or it just fizzled out for him, or what. I don't know.
He played for the Ospreys. I think we were the last club he played for, and he played for us for a couple of seasons, but not. It was a
He's
classic.
from North Wales, Rob McCusker. That's what I always remember about. I think he played for Mold actually.
Yeah, I think he's a
Wales,
Wrexham boy actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, he again, like as much as Rob McCusker was like Rob McCusker's more your so club in a lot of ways because I think he's got fewer caps and he's played for more clubs. But like, unlike Rob McCusker, kind of just had his moment with Llanelli, and then like the rest of his career was kind of just a sort of gradual downward trajectory, as most players do. Whereas I think it says a lot for Josh Turnbull that like,
fair play.
He definitely had a sort of Indian summer of being kind of.
He last played for Wales in 2021, didn't he? He was relatively.
Yeah, that should never have happened. Don't get me wrong, but like it definitely felt like, you know, that was basically just an acknowledgement that he was playing very well for Cardiff at that point in that season, and he definitely was. To be fair, like he got better than he got better than the bag of organs that he was at the start of this podcast.
That was always a gloriously unfair thing to say about him. It was just a funny about anybody. It was just a funny turn of phrase. Yes,
but he wasn't a million miles away from that when he arrived at Cardiff as a sort of concept. But he became, you know, and we started this podcast in like 2015, 2016 or whatever. That was early in his Cardiff career.
And just trying to make a bloody name for ourselves, weren't we? Clearly,
quite indeed.
Didn't work. Yeah,
but genuinely, I do think that like he did a lot of good stuff to improve his. He was a much better lock than he was a back row forward, frankly. And when he sort of made that shift to lock and he bulked up, he became a sort of like a slightly low rent Ian Goff sort of guy. You know, he was big and physical and hard, and he was a nasty man in a very unnasty Cardiff pack.
And I think he worked hard, and he led people, didn't he? You know, and that's
the other thing.
That was
clearly a great leader.
So there you go. Best of luck to you, Mr. Turnbull, in whatever you choose to do after this. And anybody who plays rugby at that level to the age of 36, to be fair, deserves a fucking enormous amount of respect. Definitely. So, yeah, good for you, mate. Good career. Any news from you, Josh?
No, I think that was about it, really. It was just
Has Jack Yandel been cited yet? That was the only news I was considering.
Not that I've seen, but Jesus Christ, he should be.
I'm conscious I've only seen the slow motion video. I will say that. However, that looks like the most unnatural hand movement I've ever seen in my life. So
yeah, and that it is worth, like, even if there is evidence to exonerate him in the footage, I would want to have a very close look at that if I was a citing commissioner. I think I'd be. How do you become a citing commissioner? Because I reckon I'd be fucking great at that, or I'd be a good disciplinary panel guy. You know. What
made you say that?
Well, I seem to just, you know, I feel like all these fucking.
Because you like saying what you reckon and you want to fuck people up. Is that what it is?
Yeah. And I just feel like they're too fucking lenient, these fucking citing things, because they're all ex-players and ex-coaches and they've all got too much sympathy.
Remember Wade Dooley became one. It's like he's never going to fucking convict anybody, even though he was a copper.
You look at the fucking judiciary panel and it's all some of the worst fucking thugs you've ever seen. And it's like, yeah, let me have a go at that.
Wade Dooley, I'd have hit harder if anything. No punishment here.
It's like, you want to start fucking disincentivizing this shit. Let me have a go. We'll get some fucking 50-week bans in here, and then we'll see how bad these tackles are.
Zero empathy decisions from now on.
Yeah.
Zero. Yeah, so well, yeah, I'm assuming the window will be closing very soon, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The player got 2 weeks for that Dura headbutt last week.
Honestly. Yeah. I mean, I was going to save this for my shit, but yes. Like, and also another week where another two hideous Super Rugby. Like, don't know if you've seen the Tate McDermott and Fraser McRae red cards, but they're both just absolute cheap shot shit. And they both instantly pled guilty and instantly got banned for 3 weeks.
Yes.
And it's like, it's almost like the 20-minute red card and incredible leniency thing isn't working here, lads. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway. So no more news. There's a lot of news this week. This is about we think we can go on and win this, which is not news, is it? So,
yeah.
Is that it news-wise?
I think so, yeah.
Right, so we're now going to talk about the weekend, which means that we say goodbye to all the people who don't support us on the Patreon edge.
Bye.
Bye. So, Women's Six Nations was back. Quarterfinals of the European various competitions was locked in.
Mm.
What do you want to talk about, Josh? What should we talk about?
You want to start with Women's Six Nations? So I can kind of empty my hate hump.
Go.
Bill Hicks would say. I don't understand what people are trying to achieve by complaining about the fact that England is so much better than everybody else. And complain that, like, if you've not got Maggie Alfonsi doing it this week, it's like, of all the fucking people, Maggie, you should not have a problem with England being dominant. But like, I get it. Like, the last.
It's really funny, isn't it? I tell you what is funny is that about half an hour into that game, I texted into our group chat private in a way and said, "This is just becoming a really hard watch," and it's really weird. Then Ali Donnelly had said it on Twitter. Then used Maggie Alfonsi, loads of other. It's really funny, is it? That this isn't a coordinated thing. That everybody, as soon as they went about 20 odd points up against Scotland in that first half, everyone just seemed to go. At the same time, it's really weird. This collective like feeling all happened,
and I think it's not helped this year by the fact that the teams that were supposed to be, getting ready to challenge England's dominance, aka France, and to a lesser extent Wales, are clearly not going to have any fucking chance of doing that this year. And I get it, the lack of genuine jeopardy, and I turned this game off at half time because the Bordeaux game was starting.
That's exactly what I did. I thought there's not much to be.
I'm not going to get much out of this, and the lack of genuine jeopardy in terms of who's going to win the Six Nations this year is definitely not great. And there's no doubt that the tournament is going to struggle to capture the public imagination without a bit more of a level playing field. But then millions of people watch fucking Formula One every week, and that is literally a competition, the winner of which was decided in a wind tunnel like 6 months ago. And
but I think sport defies analysis. I completely agree with you, by the way, but I think sport defies analysis in that way. Different sports, sorry. People kind of accept that almost because there's something about a mechanical game like that, if you know what I mean, that people accept that some people are just much better at that bit of it, and it doesn't ruin it for them.
But even by regular Formula One standards, the current level of dominance of Red Bull, where they literally just win every race unless they crash.
Yeah, I mean, I've not watched it for years, to be fair.
No, neither have I, but I have friends who are bizarrely still obsessed with it, despite it not being a sport. And it's like they're getting up at fucking 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the Japanese Grand Prix or whatever, and it's like, who's going to win this? But they're like, but the battle for the podium is interesting, and I don't understand why that can't still be the case in the Six Nations, because who's going to finish second in this Six Nations this year is really fucking interesting. It's probably France, but France have not looked very good, and who knows what could happen. I mean, they probably not going to lose to fucking Wales, but mad shit can happen in this stuff. And also, don't have a go at England for being dominant. Have a go on the fact that everybody else is not fucking doing enough to actually make their teams as good as England, which is demonstrable.
It's it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think England would probably still be the best team, even if every other nation wasn't to some extent, some degree of a structural basket case when it comes to women's rugby.
Yeah.
And and that would be easier to watch, wouldn't it? I guess if they were just better, it'd be like the Tri Nations about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, on any given day, somebody could beat New Zealand, but ultimately they're just going to win all the fucking time. They're going to win the tournament every year. There's going to be some decent test matches along the way. However,
yeah.
But I do find this, it is a hard sell, though. I mean, you're right. I mean, you can choose to either moan about that, or you can go, well, actually, they're just on another planet for numerous reasons. Don't worry about our games too much. Focus on all the other 2 games that happened that weekend. You know?
And like it's almost insulting to just because like England are demonstrably not as good as they were last year, and that's I think that's another thing that doesn't help is that this England team are not like at least when England were dominant 12 months ago, it was like, well, okay, they're basically playing rugby from space, like the level of like handling, the level of precision, the level of execution, the mentality, all of that stuff was on such a higher level than like any other team that you've ever seen. It was like, well, fair fucks. Like, yeah, they should be beating teams 30, 40, 50-0 because they're playing a level of rugby that very, very few other teams have ever played at. Whereas at the moment, it's like, yeah, they're really fucking good players.
Yeah.
And occasionally it all clicks and you go, ooh. But most of the time, it's just like, okay, we're bigger than you and we're more horrible than you and we're more skillful than you. And so occasionally, most of the time, we're just going to fucking work our way over in some way, shape or form because we're bigger and fitter and harder.
I mean, Hannah Bottomman running at you, fuck off. Not interested.
Well, exactly.
Not interested at
Hannah
all.
Bottomman kicking at you, fuck off.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
I was very delighted that she claimed that the wind took that kick.
The glorious font.
And that's why it went into touch, which, yeah, love it. But yeah, it's England didn't do anything. It was quite disappointing because after how Scotland had played this tournament, you felt like they could make England uncomfortable in a way.
And there were flashes of it, weren't there? There was a couple of little breaks. You thought, Yeah.
And I guess that is just where we're at with the sort of landscape of women's rugby at the moment. And
this is the problem, is it? You end up drifting towards having a big structural discussion about funding and getting wound up about it, which we've done many times.
Yeah.
Because certainly in England games, increasingly the stuff that's on the field, it's like watching a YouTube video of a machine that crushes a car into a cube. It's like, fuck me, that's good, isn't it? And then you watch 3 cars getting crushed and you go, right, okay, I'll skip it. Next video, please. It's like watching Joe Bonamassa on guitar. You got a bit more niche. It's like, that is clearly very impressive. I'm bored now and it's 4 minutes in.
I've already feuded with him this weekend.
I was going to say, you probably can't say anything, can you? So
I can't. I've already incurred his ire this weekend once. So I've got to tread carefully.
The last thing I want to do, by the way, you can say nothing. The last thing I'd want to do is compare this very lovely England women's rugby team to Joe Bonamassa. But you see what I'm saying? There's an element of it. I mean, I texted you after the game. We had a bit of a chat, didn't we? I mean, Cabella is
unbelievable.
I mean, I think she's like a cross between Josh Kronfeld and Olivier Magna. I said because men's players are the only kind of cultural touchstone I have, really.
Yeah,
but she's just incredible, absolutely incredible.
She is like, we said it. Like, I think she is the best. Like, she's 22 fucking years old. She's 22.
Yeah.
She's the best England player I've seen at that age since like Maro Itoje, but her ceiling is probably just as high, if not higher. And yeah, man, it's
and Amber Heard, man.
Yeah. And this is the sort of terrifying thing about England for everybody else is that like there's just this conveyor belt of fucking brilliant players that seems to be like coming through and it's like it doesn't matter who
And Emma Singh can't get a match day squad, can she?
This is the thing, exactly. And it's like And the legends what retired, 6 months or 12 months ago, the quality of the caps that England have lost over the last 12 months. And yet they are worse than they were. And I think that they're definitely having some growing pains under John Mitchell. I don't think the attacking game works, but they've got so many good players still that it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Eddie Kildun, man. Again, it's boring talking about it because it's just like, yeah, she's the best player in the world again.
Yeah.
But she actually is. It's terrifying.
Yes. And it went. Nobody expected Scotland to win. I don't think, but nobody expected to be nilled either. That was the really disappointing thing about it.
No, and I think that is probably the sort of painful bit for Scotland is it wasn't supposed to be like this. Scotland probably played worse here against England than they did 2 years ago in Edinburgh against England in the Six Nations, and that is just really frustrating because they're a better team than what they showed on Saturday, I think. And yeah, I mean, fucking hell, it's still second, third place is wide open now.
Yeah,
and they can absolutely fucking get it if they have a good run in and France slip up. So yeah, if I was a Scotland fan, I would not be disheartened by that because that is just what happens when you play England. Sometimes they're not in a good mood to be accommodating in any way, shape, or form, and they're just horrible, and they're not. And yeah, it's hard, man. It is like watching a fucking anaconda slowly choke the life out of a bunny rabbit. In that it's just not very entertaining, and you kind of feel like you're intruding on something quite private sometimes. But that is the lay of the land. England you have to take your hat off to England that this setup is so much better than everybody else's. And I don't often say this, but credit to the RFU for having some vision. And going no, if we fucking fund this thing properly and throw money at these things, okay, it's not running a profit right now, but hell, they've sold 50,000 tickets for Twickenham next week, and sponsors and all that sort of stuff will come in, and the gates are getting bigger, and that's where.
And you've got to take a generational view, I think, haven't you, or at least a 10-year business plan view on this.
Big time. And the problem that I think that we have is that. The other nations, and particularly Wales, which we'll get to in a minute, think that, we've been so hung up on professionalism for these women for so long now that, the other unions are kind of basically have an attitude of, they're professional, now fuck off and let us focus on what we actually care about.
Happy now, hey?
It's not, it's not enough to just fucking put a little fucking Twitter-style verified professional dot after people's names. It's But
what do you expect for 22 grand a year?
Well, exactly, and you have to keep plowing money into this thing in order to actually make it viable. And then it's fucking textbook business shit.
Seed money.
You have an asset that has massive fucking potential returns. But you need to invest in that in order to it grows and thrives and flourishes, and then you get the ROI. And it's almost like everybody else, because I know Wales are apparently talking about moving the England game next year to the Millennium Stadium in the hope of basically cashing in. It's like you haven't fucking earned that yet. By some distance, Wales have the WRU has not earned trying to sell out the Millennium Stadium.
They're gonna have a harder time with a fucking men's game next year.
Well,
Never mind
exactly.
the women.
Yeah, and so, but it's all this thing of just we've got a professional women's team now, so I mean, obviously, loads of women are going to turn up. No, the women's team's got to be fucking good first. It's got to actually show that they're doing they actually have to look like they know what they're fucking doing. And yeah, I know it's really interesting actually because obviously, Ireland were brilliant on the weekend. They deserve all the plaudits that they're right.
Let's try and focus on the game because obviously we end up drifting towards everything's
Yeah, and they were so much better in terms of
Yeah.
both, everything, like attitude, precision, physicality,
Yeah.
everything that they did well against it. I thought it was really interesting that they said that they'd looked at everything that they did wrong against Italy the week before last, and they tried to basically not do that in terms of like forcing it and overplaying in the 22 and all this sort of stuff. And they basically did exactly that. They did all the good stuff that they did well that should have meant that they beat Italy a couple of weeks ago. And they then didn't make the same mistakes that they did that ultimately cost them the game. And, absolutely hats off to Ireland's players and coaches, mainly the players, it must be said. Although to be fair, the coaches and you guys, I shouldn't tar them with the fucking old IRFU brush, but like for everything that they've fucking been through in the last couple of years, like that playing group 100% deserved that moment. And
I've got an enormous amount of time for even Riley, the scrum half.
Big time.
She is just exactly the kind of fucking scrum half I love, basically. Busy, unfussy, fucking gets the ball away very quickly, chooses the right pass every time. Just a joy, really. And that's half the reason why they got that go forward in a way, because when you can run when you play with a 9 like that. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And also, I thought it was really, it's it just shows how quickly like things can turn around if you have. And one thing I would say is like Wales are quite a cautionary tale for Ireland right now, because like
what has happened there, right? Because you could talk about professionalism, not professionalism, but it's still a reasonable group of players, isn't it? And that was real bad.
They've got consistently worse throughout the last 18 months. And I think it's interesting because like there is there's a lack of scrutiny on the women's game in Wales that from the media and in general that is as ultimate, it's understandable that people don't want to be negative about it. But at the same time,
and it is a trap you can fall into. Actually, that's why I think a lot of people have spent a bit longer than normal before they've said.
I think it's so.
England are a bit shit to watch, aren't they?
But equally, like there's just a lack of coverage. Wales Online has written one story about this game, which, bearing in mind, is probably one of the lowest ebbs of Welsh in a year of low ebbs. That is probably the lowest ebb in terms of Welsh rugby in this year, I would say. And Wales Online has written one story about that game since Saturday, which is one fewer story than they've written about Louis Rees-Zammit in that time. And that lack of scrutiny has sort of allowed a certain degree of I think, complacency and a lack of accountability to fester within that group. And like, it's to listen to Johan Cunningham, like I think there's a more nuanced take than just the coach is shit, because shit coaches don't create the sort of ennui and lack of general effort and application that we've seen from Wales in this tournament, particularly from Wales in this tournament. It was interesting, I thought, that Wales were much better against England than they were against either Ireland or Scotland. And it was almost as if they felt like they didn't have to turn up to win those games, and then they lost. And they didn't. The worrying thing is they learned nothing from losing to Scotland and then got absolutely fucking hosed by Ireland.
Sometimes, though, the way you coach isn't right, is it? And that sounds like a really fucking stupid thing to say. But the point I'm making is that rugby is so pathologically geared to not want to be like football that they actually leave probably coaches in place longer than it. I mean, football's mad.
Yeah, football's too much. But
there's a point at which you almost don't say, right, sack him because it's not working, is it? Because you can't do that because we trust people because we're a different sport. So actually, sometimes it ain't fucking working.
Well, I would like to say, as much as I don't think it is as simple as the coach is shit, I do think Johan Cunningham is shit, and I think his team is pretty out of his depth. Like I know it's hard to find anybody who wants to work in Welsh rugby in 2024, but honestly, like.
Sometimes it isn't as simple as that, but this time it is. So
I think it's not just this, but I do think, like, genuinely, the jobs for the boys shit at the WRU has to end now, man, because like all Ewan Cunningham has done, right? And the Scarlets 2017 title winning coaching team, right? Since 2017, every single member of that coaching team has been employed by the WRU in one way or another since then. And Ewan Cunningham has basically just been allowed to fail forward because he went from doing a genuinely appalling job at the under-20s to then, like, he had a positive first 6 months or so.
I was going to say, to be fair, it did seem it looked like
up until the World Cup,
it's been diminishing
like
returns since, hasn't it? Is the point.
And then it's got dramatically worse. Richard Whiffin, who used to be the fucking Wales attack coach when Wales were terrible at attack and still are, is now the under-20s coach, who are also shit. He was also the attack coach at the Scarlets. When it's like, honestly, it's like why do we keep rewarding these people who are clearly not very good with different jobs where they can do even more damage? Like, and I get it. It's like it must be hard to find people who want to work in Wales at the moment because the vibe is shit. But like, fuck me, Sean Lynn, man, proud Welshman, head coach of fucking Gloucester Hartpury, reigning champions, currently undefeated fucking title defense. And is he even on the WRU's radar? Have they even thought about fucking going, hey, Sean, do you want to come and coach a lot of these people that you've turned into title winners at international level and see what
you don't even have to move?
Yeah. He's like, he's but is that even no? The thought is always, oh, well, what sort of mid-level shit men's coach? What's what is the fucking solution going to be? They're going to fucking sack Ewan Cunningham and give Byron Hayward the job. That seems to be the level. It's like the opposite of the Kingsley Jones.
Byron Hayward is like comedy level bad, like spoof coach level. Byron Hayward,
and yet,
yes, he's coached more professional teams than me. The usual caveat applies. However, I'm still saying it.
But it's. I think he's a Pontypool now. Maybe he's not. He's got another job anyway. He definitely has there's just something about the sort of way that Welsh rugby employs coaches at the moment that is fundamentally bad, and too many bad coaches are given so many chances to fail. With Ewan Cunningham, it's like, if he'd have come out after that game and gone, yeah, I take full responsibility for this, that was unacceptable. And instead, Ewan Cunningham had this weird fucking thing where he was talking about like, oh, it's teams that, it's not comparing apples for apples between teams in the Six Nations, as if like Ireland are somehow in a better place than Wales are.
I was going to say,
with their 20 grand a year contracts and being forced to live in Dublin.
Somebody said to me at the weekend, I said, because I caught up with the highlights of this game. I watched this game the day after because I was off doing my gig stuff. And somebody had watched the game. He came and I said, how did Wales get on? Because I'd not a chance. And he said, they still got hammered. I said, are you fucking joking? He said, no. And this person was saying, oh, but Ireland, you see, they brought all these sevens players back in and stuff. It was like, I was like, oh, I'm not going to argue with you because I'll seem like a nose and an arsehole. But I'm not having that at all. That's just an inexcusable result.
No, it's the thing. It doesn't matter that like maybe Parsons and a bunch of other sevens players are back in the squad this year.
No,
like it shouldn't matter.
Like, it helps. Don't get me wrong.
It helps. Yeah.
You think about talk about from the ground up, right? You're talking from the bottom of a fucking mine shaft up for these fucking Irish women.
If we're talking apples and fucking apples, and why are we always talking about goddamn apples? Like. Wales are supposed to be the team with the fucking expensive, high-quality organic apples. Ireland and Scotland are supposed to be like oldie golden delicious at best. And yet, look at the table. Like, I thought Nick Heath posted a really interesting thing, actually. And I think it's not just about, like, it is about women's rugby specifically, but I think it's about, it says a lot about professional sport in general. But like, Kat Marchant, the former England player, there's a lot of commentary sort of said to him basically in a bar after the game on the weekend that she saw some teams, which I think we can pretty comfortably assume she's just talking about Wales here, turning professional has ultimately not been a good thing, because subconsciously these players aren't putting in the same effort or holding themselves to the same standards, because professional sport is kind of a grind. Whereas, like, if you're an amateur, like you're doing your extras, you're G'ing yourself up for it, because it's this thing that you have to really fucking want to do in order to be good at it, in order to do it. And it's from
I would never dare to say something like that, because it sounds
no, but
patronising and awful.
but she, as somebody who is an ex-professional herself, it's a really interesting take, I think, of like,
and seems to go to the gym and seems to keep going to the gym a bit herself, like, because she knows a bit about committing to something, doesn't she?
Yeah, big time. And I just think it's a really interesting take, because it's when something becomes your job, it doesn't matter how fun your job is. Like, if you're not, especially if that job, as we've discussed on this podcast, if you're not getting paid enough for that fucking job, like, it's real hard to be like, it's I would compare it to the level that somebody puts into a side hustle, like, say, a podcast.
Oh God, if I had to do rugby full time, I'd fucking despise it. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
It would be a grind. It would.
Yeah, and a lot of people who I know who have ended up doing rugby full time have come to kind of hate it and never want to do it again as a job, because it's ruined their love of it. And I think that's a very kind of macro level thing, but it can be the case with professional players, and certainly professional players who've spent a lot of their careers not being professional players, to suddenly come into that environment where it's not you have to make the most of this thing because it's your time that you're wasting. It's like, well, I'm on the clock, to treat it as a little bit more of a check-in and check. And I see it in my day job with, like, the difference between some freelancers and the difference between some people who are, like, on staff in places. And I'm not saying there's anybody they currently work with or ever passed with. Like, there are people who, when they get into a full-time job, they stop trying, because it's like, well, whereas, like, there's something about that freelance mentality where it's like, if you don't work, you don't eat.
I think there's a difference between, stopping trying is very negative, isn't it? But I suppose are they still doing they're obviously not doing something, well, you'd hope. Although, as Harley Worthy says in the comments, Wales even got done up front, which is meant to be where they're pretty strong.
Big time.
And when that's not going particularly well, then,
there was a clear effort issue on Saturday. And, like, there's systematic issues that are clear coaching ones, like the wide channel defense. Everyone's able to just have fun with that and score tries for fun in the wide channels, because the wide channel defense is fundamentally flawed and they've not fixed it. That's a coaching issue. Whatever Byron Hayward is doing,
you're being paid.
Not fucking Byron Hayward. Whatever Ewan Cunningham is doing, he is not telling them to not.
That's probably true. Whatever Byron Hayward is,
yeah, that's true.
But it's
whatever he's doing now.
And sometimes, you see it in every team, don't you? But I think it's particularly insidious in sport. If you don't believe the coach anymore, it just all starts turning to shit. You know what I mean? And sometimes you've got to want to play for somebody. I know, yes, you're professional and you should be playing for your country and the motivation should be there. But the simple fact of the matter is that's all what people in pubs say, who don't actually have to be there and do it. People say, I'd turn up and I'd run round 300 hours a day if I had the chance to play rugby for Wales. It's like, no, you wouldn't.
You do that once. You do that one time. And then the second time, you would be like, fucking hell.
Yeah, and I need something to motivate me. What job you're doing, you got to have something to motivate you. And I do think it's not as simple. If you know anything about women's rugby, blaming the coaches is a folly in some ways, because it's about more than that. But sometimes it's also the case, if you've been doing a job for 3 years and you've got roughly the same group of players and they're professional, I know the pay is shit and all that, but some of the structure's meant to be a little bit better and they're just constantly going backwards. It probably is something to do with you.
Yeah, big time. And I think that there is as with many things, like there's failure has many children in that regard. Like there is a lot of reasons why Wales are not good enough at the moment, and why why that happens. But I think the coaching has to be one of them. But I don't think that and Hannah Jones was pretty upfront about that after the game, of just like, I don't think it's entirely the coaching thing. The players probably have to have a look at themselves and whether they are really putting in the level of work that they probably need to.
But I mean, again, we've ended up kicking off about Wales, really. But to come back to Ireland, brilliant result. Great
Fantastic.
for them.
Deserved
Hugely,
it,
huge
so.
shift. Played, and he wasn't even jamming. You know, that scoreline was
No,
absolutely accurate. You know,
yeah.
And
Wales were lucky to get 5, frankly.
And a lesser issue, can I just say that the green with the navy shorts is fucking lovely.
Yeah,
lovely kit that.
I mean, from next season, Ireland will have to, or Wales will. Well, yeah, actually, the Ireland next time will have to play in their change shirt, of course, because of the whole colourblind thing. So that might actually be the last competitive match between Wales and Ireland.
Were they playing green and red?
Were they playing in green and red? Yeah.
Interesting.
Unless I've totally got that date wrong, in which case
I'm going to put my hands up and say I've not seen a France game. I still need to catch up on it. I had to go out and about yesterday, so.
I mean,
is there anything to say on it?
France
won. I know that.
Did what they were expected to do. It was fairly comprehensive. They were never losing at any point. It was, yeah. You know, when you spend 100% of the game in the lead, it's
yeah.
Things are fun. They literally scored a try after like 30 seconds or something. It was.
Is it Fallow week again this week? I can't remember. In the women's,
I don't know actually. I think it might be. Let's find out.
I'm on that one. No, England play Ireland on Saturday.
Oh, of course they do. Of course they signed the Twickenham this week. Yeah,
it is
50k sold. So yeah, going to be a great occasion, and certainly a massive fucking boost for Ireland. Before obviously Twickenham's going to be a completely different test, but they should go into that game with bags of confidence.
Well, they should just play exactly like that. They might lose, but
exactly.
They should keep playing exactly like that. Well, they will lose.
The thing. They will exactly lose, but it's keep doing what you're doing because that's clearly the way forward for this Ireland team.
Right. So, shall we talk about the European games?
Yes, I suppose so. A thoroughly fucking hugely entertaining slate of quarterfinals. Let's be honest. Some of the most genuinely fun rugby.
Even the hammerings had some lovely moments.
Exactly, yeah. Even Toulouse Exeter, which we're probably not going to have time to really talk about in any depth, was a game for 40 minutes.
Yes.
And then Toulouse. And then, to be honest with you, watching Toulouse go, hang on, lads. Let's remember who we are for a minute. We're Toulouse here.
And Tamak looked up at the scoreboard, pulled a slightly confused face after
that should say
that
seems to say Exeter are ahead. That's not right.
Shall we do something about this? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then Jesus Christ, did they fucking do something about that?
Yes.
I mean
Blair Kinghorn is living his best fucking
honestly,
life.
He is the absolute perfect. Like, it's interesting that, because obviously Tomo Ramos has been sort of ensconced in that 15 jersey for Toulouse and France for a while, but he is, like, in many ways, I think Blair Kinghorn is much more of a traditional Toulouse fullback in that he's fucking massive and quick and can hit the like. He sort of is the natural. Tomo Ramos does not rock up at the end of like strike moves and score tries.
No,
that is not his game. He's second 10, second distributor, all of this good stuff. However, there's something about it just suits the Toulouse style better, I think, than Tomo Ramos does, and it's just unbelievable. It was, I mean, what can you say about that second half, man? It was fucking outrageous.
It was dignity splintering.
Yeah,
it was.
It was. To be honest with you, it was slightly indecent from Toulouse in a lot. Like, obviously,
was it Rob Baxter's? I've had worse than that.
You fucking haven't, mate.
I would like to see it, whatever it was.
Yeah. Look, that was, let's not forget at whatever it was, 49 minutes, 50 minutes, that game was 24-19. You know, at half time, it was 17-16. It was like it was a game that was, extra were technically in the lead at the 47th or 48th minute or whatever it was, until that breaking of second try was the first try. I don't know, I lost count. There's so many.
Yeah. I just had an idiot grin on my face by the time I got half into the second half. So.
Genuinely, to be, a point behind at half time, and to end up on the wrong end of a 60-point fucking battering.
Amazing.
And the funniest thing is, it wasn't even the best game of the weekend, because that was clearly Bordeaux Harlequins, which...
I mean, an utterly glorious, fundamentally unserious Hall of Fame, Pantheon, batshit masterpiece.
Imagine how much
with parasols somehow.
Yeah, imagine how more batshit that game would have been if Damien Pinot was fit.
That's true. Yes.
Like, imagine all of that, but with him running like his weird, mad, headless chicken self. Like, I mean, Bordeaux would probably have won that, but if they had, but I don't know. I thought everything about that game, and ultimately though, right, as much as it was some of the most entertaining 80 minutes of rugby that we've all seen this season, and the sheer unseriousness of some of the tries was just so much more fun than I ever expected in my wildest dreams. However, the reason that Quins ultimately won that game was because they had a dominant set piece. Like,
so Adam Jones once again is the secret to everything.
Indeed. Like, but you look at that, the numbers like 3 or 4 times, like Bordeaux were like knocked on or forward passed inside, within the Quins 22, and in a lot of Quins kick out to the 20, Quins win the scrum and like kick to the 22 or quick to the 10-meter line. They're just coming straight back at you, and it's probably a try. But the number of times that they just went, right, penalty then, and with no Joe Marler as well, by the way, like, just like, yep, fuck it, penalty, is it? And the number of times that enabled them to clear their lines, and not just clear their lines, but actually, they had what was it, 2 or 3 of those tries came off driving mauls, ultimately, even if they weren't directly driving maul pushed over the line, it was like the driving maul did enough damage that they were able to kind of close carry over the line and score. Even the one at the end is a textbook example of that. And yeah, it just shows that like it doesn't matter how much razzle dazzle shit you've got, like it doesn't matter how many ridiculous fucking offloads you do or how many insane lines you run. Like, if you have a dominant scrum and a dominant line out, you will probably win, even in a mad game.
I was really fascinated actually by the way that Quins used Chandler Cunningham South in that first receiver position that he's in a lot, and he
gets over the fucking game.
He either runs onto it like a gigantic bastard, or he can actually use his hands as well. It's a really, really on top of the set pieces. I completely agree with, but it's really interesting to see. And then you've got kind of him and Esterhazen become this. What's the best way I can put it? Sort of like an inside center pairing somehow. Off like set pieces and stuff. Then you get that. And Esterhazen, by the way, was fucking glorious. It's easy to forget some of his passing as well, man. You forget that.
They are going to miss the fuck out of him next year when he's not there, because he is so integral. Part of the reason why Marcus Smith doesn't really work at test level is that, like, as good as Ollie Lawrence is, and like Andre Esterhazen's skill set is pretty fucking unique in terms of his bosh and his passing. And his awareness and his awareness of space. Like, that first try, his awareness to kind of make that break down the fucking touchline.
Holding the ball in one hand.
Yeah.
To really make a point
just
out.
Epic shit. Oh, honestly, it was such a fucking fun game. I was genuine.
The bad thing was, I watched it, I was like, fuck me, they're 17 points up. That won't matter. Because that's the great thing about the game. I just sat there going, that won't matter. This is just, there's no way. And then, of course, did they score the next 2 tries then?
Yeah.
Well,
there was a moment where, like, I think that, like, TNT put out, like, a tweet that was like, oh, you know, after, I think it was one of the tries that Quinn scored to, like, it was like, oh yeah, could this be a decisive, a decisive score, in this? It's like, don't think that any, like, do you think that any lead in this game is safe, or any score is decisive in this game except for the last one, which is ultimately what happened.
Turned out to be.
Yeah, it within literally 15 minutes, it became incredibly apparent that this was last score wins, and it was. I genuinely just.
It even had their outside half doing the most grotesquely obscene deliberate knock on, which obviously gave a penalty try away. But it was like, fuck this. What?
And also, just like, and Bordeaux's response to this was, to going behind was just like, oh yeah, let's just stick Maxime Lucu at 10 because that's something that's been tried before. And, it fucking worked. It genuinely worked. Apparently, more scrum halves equals more win. Apparently.
It was just great. As soon as he cut to it, and it was like, it's boiling, the sun's shining, the grass looks the greenest thing, greener than Augusta, Georgia this weekend. I just thought, this is just going to be brilliant, and I just know it is, and it was, because it's Quins, and every game they're in is somehow just a bigger laugh than the week before.
Yeah, it was. It was like, the best part of this was watching this game and thinking the winner of this game is probably going to have to go and play Toulouse, and just like with the fun that we are in for, like, as much as Quins will still be heavy underdogs next time around. Like,
well, they won't die with the music in them, will they? That's what I love about them.
Absolutely not. And then the reality is, like, the Toulouse Bordeaux, like, in the same way that Racing game last week was not very fun, even though Toulouse kind of won it handily, because French teams just know how to play other French teams too well, because they play them a lot, and so they kind of, but like you add I think that's the brilliance and the beauty of European rugby, is like, Toulouse haven't played fucking Quins recently. Toulouse don't know how to sort of stop this madness. And equally, Quins sure as shit don't have any answers to stopping what Toulouse are going to try and do. And it's real fucking fun.
And it's going to be boiling again. It's going to be fucking great.
I love it.
Northampton, just go back to whatever we said about Northampton last week and just play it again.
Yeah.
Because
but against a completely disinterested second string Bulls team, who, to be fair to them, turned up for 30 to 35 minutes and then were like for the second half. I mean, the entire second half might as well have just been flapping lips, because they were just not interested. Part of me was just thinking, like, the South African Rugby Union spent £175,000 to fly you here, and you can't be asked. I mean, for starters, they fielded a second team, which is bullshit, and like, that shouldn't happen at the, like. I don't care that there's other things going on. I don't care that there's Curry Cup and all this sort of stuff. If you don't appreciate what being in the quarterfinal of a fucking Champions Cup is, then you shouldn't be playing in it.
No. I'm moaning about how long it's taking them to travel there and stuff like that.
You signed up for this.
You literally begged to come in and threw money at it. Yeah,
I know. It's very strange.
Yeah. What else is there? Leinster.
I tell you what, for all the credit that Stu Lancaster was given for Leinster's success, it will be quite funny if they finally stop underachieving in Europe. Now he's gone. And I really like Stu. I think he's a good man and a good coach.
Yes.
But I did always find it a bit much how much the English press sort of heaped responsibility for Leinster's sort of transformation into a rugby thrashing machine onto him when like there's obviously a lot more going on than that. And yeah, what a surprise that a World Cup winning fucking coach rocks up, a guy who has won a World Cup quarterfinal, and and it's just like, I can. La Rochelle are so much worse than they were last season.
Yeah, I've got La Rochelle are not what they were, but even
equally,
so.
Well, even so, there was still that sort of like, they're basically the same behind that they were. When they scored before half time again, like they did last time, a little bit of you was like, oh, is this where the comeback is on again? And then that just came out in the second half, and clearly their doorman on the referee's room were much better this year than they were last year. And they slammed that fucking door both on the field and off it.
That first try, the second half that Ryan Baird scored. Ooh, fuck! I mean, obviously he's quite a good finish actually because he was just on the left wing by the end. But my God, what a try that was! I mean, that pick of a number of them really, because the way they were playing was just remarkable. And the defense the defense was so good as well.
Yeah,
they've got quite a good system there now. I think it seems
really
quite.
Have. Yeah,
it makes Jordan Lama look like he knows what he's doing. That's how good that system is.
It makes him look like he's doing long enough to be replaced by Jordi Barrett in that short next That is the downside of the Jordi Barrett thing. Is I think that probably does mean that we're going to have a bit of hiatus on the Jordan Lama.
Lama will go to Munster,
playing well enough to get into the Ireland squad. Fucking reprise. For 5 minutes. Anyway,
a particular listener that I'm aware of will be very upset by what I just said. You know who you are. I can only apologise.
But yeah, it's genuinely like JLM pointed out that Twins did play Toulouse in the group stage and got thanks. I wasn't paying attention.
Nobody was paying attention to that.
And if you were paying attention in the group stages, shame on you.
Yeah, more fool you for actually paying any attention to it whatsoever. A ridiculous group stage result is what's ended up with fucking Leinster playing away from home again.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
I just say
they should stop seeding the semi-finals? By the way, it should fuck off.
They should. I think they should it should be a toss of a coin.
Fuck them. They should go in. It should be the FA Cup. It should go in a fucking ball. Get the balls in the bag, and off you go.
But equally, Stephen Jones implying that it's some sort of like gross unfairness that like that Northampton have to go to Dublin and play at Croke Park.
Yeah,
it's like it's just how these things work, man. Like,
I mean, is he not thinking about how upset Saracens are going to be that he's quickly moved on to a new lover?
This quickly. Barely was the fucking ball kicked into touch in Lyon when he
before he's already moved in with a new woman.
I tell you what though, like genuine, like the presence of Toulouse, Quins, and Saints in the last four does kind of reflect quite a fun trend in rugby at the moment, where it's like traditionally,
the Premiership is deep fun, isn't it? If you leave aside the doom and gloom about everyone going bust, which is still there in the background, but this is like the violin players on the deck chair of the Titanic. But if it was a rave, everyone was absolutely off the fucking head on Garys. Basically, they're all double drop Garys, and they've gone fucking mental to some hard tech or something for the rest of the evening as it slowly descends below the waterline.
In a long history of that sort of thing on this podcast, that might have been the most 90s thing you ever said.
I don't know any modern drug slang, is what we learned.
I don't even know speed is still a thing.
It probably is.
I think it's all just fucking Coke and MDMA these days.
Monkey dust, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Anyway, where was I? So,
but ultimately, particularly the Champions Cup, it's usually been the case that business end of these competitions is the business-like teams, and like Leinster aside, there's nobody sensible left. That's probably why Leinster are going to win it.
But even Leinster were there was a lot of fuck it type play. I mean, it was all very crisp and all that. Don't get me wrong, but it was fuck it and expansive, and
it was a lot more expansive than we've seen them be in these stages of competitions in the past. And you know, it's
Is
to
it a
their
post
credit.
World Cup thing? Is it just everyone's?
I
a bit
did wonder
tired
if this
and
may
it's
be a bit of a post World Cup, like fuck it situation where everyone's a bit knackered and they're just like,
But I've
we'll
got a lot
see.
of time for it though. Going, we all realise
Me
the World
too.
Cup finishing middle of the season. You know what I mean? You could feel a little bit deflated heading into the domestic period. So what we're going to do is make it a whole lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably me done with the weekend. It was so much fun. Such a fun.
Talked about Toulouse. Yeah. Talked about Leinster. Yeah. Nothing. Well, imagine if Ospreys had a line out. I've got written down here.
Well, we do usually. I mean, this is what, like, so many of the things that the Ospreys did well, always do well every week, like a strong set piece, which is the entire, like, it all didn't work. And that to me just speaks of it was a game too far. This squad was just too knackered and too depleted.
Gloucester have to lose to Benetton next.
Well, this thing, I'm fully on the
Benetton
trade. Cup train now. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, absolutely. Of course you will.
Want that. Yeah.
Shall we do shit good to finish?
Yeah.
Because that was the weekend. So we welcome everybody back and we finish on shit good. Hello. Have you got any shits that you haven't mentioned already?
Jack Noel. That does not look like it has worked out. It doesn't look great when you are a winger getting sort of burned by the world's slowest winger, as he was for that James Lowe final try in that game. But just the whole game, to be honest, like he looked like Jack Noel's always been a very hard-working, defensively solid, really fucking tenacious player, and he looked so, particularly as the game went on, he looked old as fuck. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, fair enough, man. Like, you are in the twilight of your career now, and there's a lot of fucking, he's only 31, but there's a lot of fucking wear on those tires in terms of injuries and stuff. But he just looked, when James Lowe is burning you, man, that is when you've got to start taking long. You've got to Gary Neville at halftime versus West Brom yourself a little bit and have a word with your inner Mike feeling and say, are you fucked? Are you done? Because he didn't look like when you look at like the wingers that are playing, in this tournament, and like just on that weekend, fucking hell, all of the back three for fucking Saints, man. Like Ollie Slater, like how is that not a thing at England level? He is unbelievably good. And
the try scored last week as well, particularly that kind of jinking diagonal cut off his left wing and through. Yeah,
but he's not the biggest winger in the world height wise, but like
he's nuggety, isn't he?
Yeah, he's big and physical and hard and fast, and it's like you just got to you look at sort of what Ronan Agar's trying to do in La Rochelle, and you're just like, is that like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the squad that he's building are built for what modern rugby is becoming, is in the silly way and the fun, unserious way,
What else we got that's shit here? Ian Brown says, shit for me is alternative jerseys. When you end up with Claremont at home wearing grey against Ulster playing in yellow and Benetton at home in pink playing against Connacht playing in black, then something's not quite right.
That Connacht jersey, that Connacht European jersey, by the way, is a hate crime. Genuinely the worst jersey I've ever seen.
There's a Gloucester one, isn't there? It's the same colour as Richmond and Salford.
Yes, the Gloucester one is very nice. They've I think those are like the original Gloucester colours before they borrowed
red cherry and white hoop.
Yes, because they borrowed it from a club down there. I can't even remember where it is. One of those local clubs to them. They borrowed the fucking jersey from. Who is it? Oh, that's going to bother me. Anyway, yeah, I don't mind the European jersey thing. It's kind of a thing now, but I do think that some European jerseys, I do feel like European jerseys should still represent your club, Like Ulster should have a red European jersey because that was the jersey that they wore in the Heineken Cup final when they got there, and stuff like that. And like Toulouse, traditionally, their European jersey has always been red. You know. And Claremont used to always play in white in Europe, and then they decided a couple of years ago that they were going to play in black instead, which I hate. Because whenever you think of those great Claremont teams getting to Heineken Cup finals and being good in Europe, it's always in white.
See, Aurelion Rougerie losing in white again.
Yes, exactly.
What's got here? Neil Webber says shit is England's defence England's discipline in kicking. I think there's the same root cause beneath them both. When you're good enough to put 45 points on a team, even when 14 down without kicking, it doesn't matter if you're kicking, your discipline's terrible. Until it does in a World Cup, they need to sort it out, discipline especially.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, there are issues that John Mitchell will hopefully have identified with that England team, but they aren't issues that are likely to cost them anytime soon,
Yeah. Kyle Walsh says shit is Leinster signing Jordi Barrett. Yes, clearly they're able to afford the guys the RFU are paying for, so shouldn't that RFU money be spent on the women's game that they've neglected, for example, or developing some non-private school pathways? Well, that's an entirely different podcast, Kyle. But,
yeah. I'd listen to that podcast, by the way.
I would, yeah. Carwyn Jones says, good is Jack Willis's carrying, but shit is Harvey Skinner doing his best ROG impression in defence. Yes. John Simmons says, shit is I did my bit for local rugby at the weekend by visiting Moseley on a Saturday in League One. They lost 52-0 to Chinner, losing 9 of their own lineouts in the process. One of the spectators, who was desperate for me to know her son was the Moseley fly half, was insisting that Moseley weren't playing that badly, actually. They were. Everyone go see a local club game, though. It's always good fun.
Indeed.
Got any more shit?
The whole Neath RFC thing, man.
This has passed me by.
This whole EDC thing. You know how Neath are trying to
yes.
Get themselves back in, get themselves in the elite development competition conversation, and their strategy seems to be getting increasingly obtuse celebrities to record video messages or send.
I've not seen any of this.
Oh my God, have you not seen this? Oh my God. So it started off like fairly straight, fairly the ones that you would expect. It was Jiffy. It was James Hook.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
People who played for Neath, for example.
Yeah. And then it got weirder when it was like Alex Popham and Xavier Rush and Saron Walden and Lynn Jones. But in the last couple of days, it's got increasingly bananas where they had a statement from Zinzan Brook and I'm going to read this statement to you because it's so they couldn't even get him to do a video, but he said, it says, Zinzan Brook here from Windsor RFC. Today I'm representing and speaking on behalf of Neath RFC, and I thought I might have a little bit of influence as I played to an okay level. Oh, Zinzan. Clearly, I played the game once at a respectable level, and part of this, I'm doing a big favour for one of the best rugby clubs in Wales, Neath RFC. There's someone called Matty who's reached out to ask me to send a good luck message to the club. They put this in the fucking statement. The club's future is dependent on the decision, and they asked me to put this pressure on the powers that be to include this great club. I just thought I'd try and help some nice Welsh supporters. I'm a big Welsh fan as well, and Gareth Edwards was one of my absolute favourites, Cardiff player. Okay. Look, gotta go now, but please at least have a discussion with Neath. I liked rugby too. Have a good day, Zinzan Brook. All black.
I mean, New Zealand, you can't deny that is top quality stuff.
But then, they had Xavier Rush, who they said New Zealand rugby legend Xavier Rush, completely forgetting the fact that he is.
Do you think they went on Cameo and looked for the cheapest rugby people available?
Well, because then they had Pritchard from Dirty Sanchez. And then notorious, obvious fucking Twitter wind-up guy, Ed Jenks, posted one that they seemingly have missed the joke on and reposted, which is very funny. He talks about robbing a lot.
He's a massive Gillespie fan, yeah.
Yeah, he genuinely talks about robbing a Brinks truck and giving the money to Neath in the video, and they're just like, and then the maddest one of all came last night, where for some reason they have a fucking extremely Marmite comedian Russell Kane doing a weird 2-minute skit about it from his hotel in Singapore.
They've absolutely done a cameo on all of these things, haven't they? That's amazing.
The amount of money that they've spent on fucking...
That's incredible.
And it's just like, look, it's quite... I've got to give it to them. It's been very entertaining.
I don't know why this is in the shit section at all. This is fucking great. What's wrong with you?
The reality is, they're trying to convince the WRU. The reason that they were rejected from the EDC originally was because their business plan for the next 5 years was deemed to be lacking detail and had some basically fanciful ideas about like the numbers that they were going to be, the money that they would be making and how they would make the club financially sustainable.
Shall we work on that? No.
And this is the thing. And the response to that is saying, how many fucking famous people can we get to do a cameo? Like, how much of our budget can we rinse on Cameo in the next fortnight to try and build media pressure?
Doing a 2-minute bit.
So random. Like, yeah.
Mad.
It's
He's
like,
not even Welsh, is he? Is he from Essex or something?
He's literally, the first minute and a half of the thing is basically him doing a bit about how shit rugby is. And it's basically, and doing a lot of sort of weird, like homophobic shit. But, you know, that's his, you know, and you know, it's, you know, and talking about initiation rituals and shoving stuff up people's asses and things. But, you know, they've still, you know, they've posted that proudly to their Twitter. I'm enjoying it, but I just think if your aim is to get serious people to take you seriously, this is not. And whatever you say about the new WRU people, they are dramatically more serious people than the people who were there 12 months ago.
I definitely think they'd be more interested in a revised business plan than whatever this is. Yeah.
They claim to have sent that as well, but like, I just don't think.
Just to really hammer it home, they've done this, just to really support the bit.
Like, I don't think, you know, Abby Tierney with her fucking, you know, Director General of the Passport Office and the Visa and Immigration Service, you know, long time Home Office fucking ethics advisor and all this stuff. I just don't think that she's going to be swayed by the dude from Dirty Sanchez.
And not even a video from Vince Ambrook.
No. And also, I might point out, Neath the fucking bottom of the league.
Yeah.
And
I love Zinni's approach, though. I played rugby to a good level, so I think that Neath should be allowed in this league.
I love Gareth Edwards.
I love the Welsh and Gareth Edwards. Deary me, that's amazing. I'm going to have to keep, I'll be keeping a close eye on it, because who's next? Who's next off the rank of the video?
This is the worrying thing, is that, like, there is a, you know, the decision is supposed to be made in the next couple of days. So we are literally, you know, this train could come off the rails at any moment. So sadly, you know, that Russell Kane might be the end of the budget, unfortunately. But who knows? Me and Robbie were looking at, like, who's the cheapest people on Cameo were for rugby, and there's still some real fucking big names they could get for not a lot of money.
Hello, my name is Rose West, and I'm speaking to you from HM Prison.
Oh, as a proud West Country,
I also went on holiday to Pembrokeshire. I went past Neath a couple of times.
I always, as a proud Gloucester fan, I always remember our games against Neath. Anyway, do you know who the most expensive rugby person on Cameo is, by the way?
Oh,
it's gonna make you cross.
Oh, is it Haskell?
No, it's not. That would make more sense because at least he's famous.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
It is by quite some distance Andy Good.
Fuck me. You were right. It has made me angry. Yeah.
I could just assume that.
Fuck off. Even if you like Andy Good, why would you pay good money to have that fucking idiot talking to you?
£160 for a personal video.
I wonder how many. Mind you, though.
I'll tell you what, though.
There's a lot of fucking arseholes with a lot of money who watch rugby union, isn't there?
Do you know how much? He's only got one review, though.
It makes you think he's priced himself too high there.
He has, yeah. I mean, even Brian Habana's only 40 quid.
Isn't Jiffy only about 70 quid or something?
Jiffy's 60 quid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shane's 120, which I think,
I think he'll have a decent production line of people willing to do that. Yeah.
He's got 34 reviews and 4.97 stars.
DTH Van der Merwe is 12. We did this once before, didn't we? We did look a few years ago.
Shauna Brown, 18 quid, bargain. Anyway,
should we move on to good? Because we've gone on for fucking ages. Have you got any good? We haven't talked about already.
Paul Costes, another one, basically. Another fucking brilliant young French centre who's probably going to break my fucking heart in a couple of years. Where are these people coming from? It's not fair.
Not Fiji for once.
It feels churlish that they're also going after that lad at Munster when they clearly don't need
Antoine Frisch. Yeah.
Antoine Frisch. Yeah. Like, well, where is Antoine? Like, I know that he wants to play for France now, but it's like, Antoine, you're 27 years old and you are an extremely solid big Bosch club centre who can't kick or pass. And look at all these other lads that France have got, and look how fucking good they are, even though they're about 12.
That's how broken Irish rugby is, that Munster players have been capped for the people they're only secondarily qualified for before Ireland will even give them a look in, but the fourth choice, something or other at Leinster has been called into the squad.
Indeed.
Anyway, that's how broken it is that they keep winning, the Six Nations. They'll give a shit. But anyway, what else is good here? Callum Forsyth is good for us. We just bought our first house, and the first order of business is to listen back through old episodes for gardening tips. Yes, Callum. Well, more happy for you. You've got your first house. Wonderful times. Phil Jones says that good is the Tigers have announced a fixture against plucky pub team Black Lion for the May Day weekend.
Hey, get in there.
Ed Morland says good. Finn Baxter and Will Collier. Quins are absolutely an unserious team to their core, but it's the platform such as the serious scrum that allows all the other stuff to happen.
Big time.
As the point you made before, Josh, is supported by Ed there. James Reed says good was being at Gloucester versus Ospreys. Shit was being at Gloucester versus Ospreys. But extra good is Jamal Ford Robinson, who's a very nice guy, apparently.
Got a lot of time for Jamal. He seems like a very, very sound bloke.
He does. Neil Webber says good is Ireland. All of them played so well. If the union can support them properly, there will be a handful. Agreed.
Big time.
Fraser finally says good is seeing 6'3" England coach John Mitchell doing a fearful jumping, dancing walk like someone with the runs who knows it's almost too late after he was ushered past the 3-foot-tall Shetland pony mascot of the pipe band at the weekend. So you know what John Mitchell's kryptonite is?
Tiny horses. No. It's just tiny things in general.
Lil Sebastian type horses are terrifying.
When they talk about, when coaches talk about taking players to places they'll never go in games, in terms of the hurt locker, it's like John Mitchell's hurt locker is Lil Sebastian.
It's a Lil Sebastian horse. Anyway, I think that is it. Thank you, Josh.
Sorry. Hi. Yes.
Thank you, everybody else, and speak to you all soon. Goodbye.